Did you know? As we made our journey out of the womb and into the world, we were greeted by excited, loving creatures that couldn't wait to get their hands on us. No, not our parents. Our soon-to-be microbiome. Yo, yo, yo! What is up? Welcome back to another week of How to Health. My name is Kevin. I run liftandbalance.com, where we take aim at all things health and longevity and do it in an odd, weird, interesting, and highly sarcastic way. And yeah, that's right. Although our parents and a few doctors and nurses are typically there to welcome us into this world, it doesn't even come close to the trillions of microorganisms that cannot wait to put their tentacles of wisdom on us. And from that very moment, each and every one of us make the transition from being hosted to being the host. Better get the charcuterie board ready. And I know all this may sound a little creepy and even scary, but I promise you, you actually want this to happen. I mean, just look at how happy Bubble Boy was when he escaped. See? So if we're gonna be a host, we might as well be a good one, right? Especially because the topic of today's discussion is how our microbiome and the diversity of microorganisms may not only be associated with a long, healthy life, but also be a main driver of it. AKA a driver of our favorite topic on this channel, longevity. So buckle up as we're going to venture into the importance of the microbiome and microdiversity, how it changes throughout our life, new data highlighting its potential key role in longevity, and finally, things to do or stop doing to improve your microdiversity. Because, for the most part, research indicates that a microbiota with a high level of biodiversity is generally linked to good health and disease prevention. And we like those things, right? So without further ado, let's boogie with our microbes. The microbiome. If you've been part of the longevity fam here on the channel, you may know already that I consider myself a little bit of a microbiome geek.
Nerd alert!
And if you didn't know that, well, now you do. We have talked a lot about our body bugs. And I was going to say gut bugs, but the microbiome is actually the term to classify all of the microorganisms in and on us. Anywho, we have talked about these body bugs and their profound impact on our health in various videos on this channel, which I will all link below. However, most of the attention and a lot of the action does, in fact, happen in our gut, where tens of trillions of microorganisms build their microbe homes, start their microbe families, and have an impact on basically every single biological function that happens in our body. No biggie, right? The interesting thing is, just like our fingerprints, each and every individual's microbiome is unique and plastic, meaning ever-changing. Not like made out of plastic. Plasticity, ever-changing. From when the first microbes venture into our new uninhabited land as we exit the sterile womb, to the mass migration that takes place across the first 36 months of life as we explore new foods and environments. It's at this point where we're thought to have our first settled, established species that could be with us for the next couple of decades. But like I said, this ecosystem is anything but set in stone, because along the way of life, it's being constantly modulated by the food we eat, environment we interact with, exercise and sleep we get, medications we take, and the everyday items that we use. And all that really was just a bulleted list to say the lifestyle that we live. And if you're like me and you like to simplify things, the high-level equation is really pretty simple. The lifestyle we live modulate the microbes we host, and the microbes we host modulate our short-term and probably long-term health. Now, all that being said, here's the cold hard reality. Our microbiome probably ain't what it used to be. Due to the high consumption of processed food, environmental toxins, overabundance of medications, and poor lifestyle habits in general, many people cultivate a community of suboptimal, inflammation-driving microorganisms in their intestinal tubing, accompanied with a noticeable lack of biodiversity. And this combination right here could very well be a major underlying driver for a lot of the gut dysfunction and dysbiosis we see across modern day society. And interestingly, data that compares present-day indigenous hunter-gatherer microbiomes to modern Western microbiomes show a stark difference in diversity, but not necessarily a clear difference in health between healthy individuals in both groups. Translation, this is a case where there could be two right answers, or two wrong ones, indicating that a healthy microbiome could very well differ and look different based on the environment that the individual is in, and the genes being specifically expressed in that environment, which makes sense and makes this health and longevity modulator a tough code to crack. The problems seem to arise when we compare the diversity between metabolically sick and healthy individuals within the same population. For example, animal models of mice have shown that transferring the microbiome from a metabolically sick mouse to a germ-free mouse that has no microbiome causes that mouse to then fall down the path of disease and despair. And human data has reinforced that there is a different microbial signature between metabolically healthy and metabolically sick humans. Although we can't, do germ-free research in humans. We'd need like a bunch of bubble boys, but I don't think it'd work ethically. And as more research continues to be conducted in humans, we do know one thing. The illness and metabolic dysfunction across the developed world has never been higher, and the microbiome's potential role cannot be overlooked. Now, if we turn our viewpoint to the lens of longevity, we know pretty well that aging doesn't just happen by one or two main drivers. It's more along the lines of death by 1,000 cellular and metabolic cuts. And the microbiome is proving to be one of those modulators which can either accelerate things like systemic inflammation, mitochondrial dysfunction, muscle atrophy, epigenetic dysregulation, cellular senescence, and DNA damage, or protect against it. In fact, several studies have independently reported that several changes go on in the microbiome as a function of age, and that age-related microbiome change is accelerated when accompanied by things such as frailty, being sedentary, and poor diet. And one of the reasons that this is thought to be is due to its role in modulating something called the metabolome, or the laundry list of compounds and metabolites that are produced in the gut as a byproduct of specific microbe communities, microbe activity, and fermentation. Now, this could be super beneficial. Like we talked about in many of the other microbiome videos on this channel, our microbes, or good microbes, secrete beneficial metabolites which then modulate our health in a beneficial way. However, it could be straight up damaging too, upregulating inflammation locally and systemically, and setting the stage for disease and accelerated cellular aging. Like all other things in this beautiful world, it's all about the context. So let's not panic or get in a bubble. Don't put yourself in a bubble. Don't do that. Let's see what this new research has to say. Your microbes and longevity. This relatively new analysis out of the Institute for Systems Biology sought out to identify the distinct signatures in the gut microbiome linked with either healthy or unhealthy aging trajectories. And to do this, researchers identified the gut microbiome pattern associated with aging across 9,000 individuals, ages 18 to 101, from 3 distinct study populations. Not only looking at the microbiome of the participants, but the metabolome, or the aforementioned super important metabolites that these bugs secrete. So what'd they find? A few things. First, individuals' microbiome became increasingly more unique to each individual as they age, starting in mid to late adulthood. This uniqueness was positively associated with known microbial metabolic markers that have been previously implicated in immune regulation, inflammation, aging, and longevity. But here's the catch. This shift only happened in healthy individuals and was absent in those in worse health. And individuals who did not show this unique shift or had a low microbiome uniqueness had a significantly decreased survival rate over the following 4 years. And to clarify, I don't want to scare anyone, these stats were specifically for the elderly population, not middle-aged adults. And after adjusting for age, microbiome uniqueness was associated with lower LDL cholesterol, higher vitamin D, and lower triglycerides. All important biomarkers for health and longevity, and all topics we have exclusive videos for on this channel. So, what could be going on? The researchers attribute part of these findings to the metabolites that are produced by these gut bugs. And after analyzing 600 plus metabolite, researchers found a few commonalities across the 3 studies that reflect a healthy aging trajectory. One being indoles, which are gut degradation byproducts that are emerging as an important mediator of the gut microbiome host immune system interaction, or homeostasis, aka they are thought to be a key immune system modulator, and thus a probable regulator of longevity liability numero uno, chronic inflammation. In fact, this byproduct has shown to increase health span and extend survival in a number of animal models, making it officially cool for biological school. All this has researchers concluding that there is a strong positive relationship between age and microbiome uniqueness in healthy individuals, while the association was lower or absent altogether in individuals demonstrating worse health, calling out that this uniqueness pattern appears to start somewhere in midlife and is associated with a clear blood metabolomic signature, suggesting that these microbiome changes may not just be a diagnostic for healthy aging, but may also contribute directly to health as we age. All in all, our microbes got pull. And not only short-term health, but longevity too. So, how can we get more diverse? Getting more diverse. Here's the thing. When it comes to gut diversity, more doesn't necessarily mean better. But for the average person in the modern world, there is a fairly high chance that some improvements can be made. Or a lot of improvements can be made, but definitely some. The tricky part is, as stated before, the ideal microbiome is different for each and every one of us. Factors such as age, environment, lifestyle, diet, sleep, and medications, just naming a few, place us all in a different starting spot. So keep that in mind as you begin to improve your relationship with these not so creepy crawlers, which I think we're all grateful that they're microscopic. Here are some ways to explore getting a little more diverse. First, get outside, and maybe even a little dirty. Now, this may be a little different from what you're used to hearing, but you made it this far, so hear me out. We've evolved for millions of years out in the elements, in the environment with nature. However, in this modern society, we spend an estimated 90% of our lives indoors, while the majority of health modulating microbes are out there. Combining this with our cleanly, disinfecting ways, there's a probability that this in fact is hurting our health rather than protecting it. Look up the hygiene hypothesis when you get a chance. Because with every spray, sanitation, and gargle, we are wiping out not only the potential harmful microorganisms on, in, and around us, but also the good, protective ones too. And this clean slate actually opens up the opportunity for nefarious pathogens to land and solidify themselves. So getting a little dirty in nature is a prescription that we don't fulfill nearly enough. It builds and nurtures a biodiverse holobiome, or community of microorganisms that aid and protect our health, inside and out. And fun fact, having a pet is actually a pretty good strategy as well, especially when they go outside, roll around, and proceed to come in and nap in your bed. Don't ask me how I know. And if you ever come back inside, next, you want to take a hard look at all of the cleaning supplies, disinfectants, body care items, and broad-spectrum antibiotics that you use on a consistent basis. These have been shown to impact both the gut and body microbiome in suboptimal ways. My personal rule of thumb is, if I wouldn't eat it, I'm not going to put it on my body, especially the largest, most permeable organ that we have, our skin. And antibiotics are a special situation that become a case-by-case decision. We go into detail on the topic, including questions that you should ask your doctor in this video here. And you know we can't finish a conversation about microbiome diversity without talking about food. Because what you eat, they eat. Kind of has to go that way. There's actually some ways around that we don't want to, never mind. Here are some things that I like to consider when feeding my garden within. First, aim to consume a cultured array of foods, prioritizing real whole food and switching it up. Variety is important. Adding fermented food like natto, miso, kimchi, sauerkraut, yogurt, pickles, and basically any fermented veggies are all diversity promoting choices. Prebiotics, or foods high in dietary fiber and resistant starch, are important as well. These are foods that we humans can't digest, but beneficial microbes love to ferment on and secrete those beneficial metabolites as a thank you. I don't call them fiber munchers for nothing. And if you're interested, we have a full breakdown of pro versus prebiotics in this video here. We also go through some at-home tests that you can utilize to baseline your gut, which is always a good starting point. Now, on the flip side of all that microbe nourishing food, the data has shown that the consumption of a diet high in ultra processed foods, i.e. the standard American diet, the typical Western diet, is associated with lower microbial diversity and higher risk of disease, which essentially means risk for longevity or living your healthiest possible life as long as possible, getting the most out of your pretty cool meat suit and 5-pound mushy membrane to the very, very end. That ain't cool. Oh yeah, and we can't forget the other foundational components of health that we talk about in basically every other video because they play a big role too. Sleep, exercise, and stress management have all been shown to influence not only our microbes, but the decisions we make that modulate our microbes. So give some love to your extended world within. Those trillions of microorganisms that we so graciously or ungraciously host for our whole life. And if you're not where you want to be, or just need a little extra support along the way, you can join our weekly longevity challenges in Patreon, where we as a group implement longevity focused change week by week, habit by habit, getting healthy from the inside out in a sustainable way. All the links for that will be down in the description below. Remember, at the end of the day, your microbes are here to stay and influence your everyday in basically every way. So help them help you. And who knows, they may even be writing your YouTube scripts each and every week. Wait a sec.